that in order to be an unconditionally loving person and a compassionate being, we first need to know what boundaries are and how to set healthy boundaries with those that we love and with those that we encounter in our lives. I'm going to say one more time this statement because it's an important one. In order to become or to express that unconditionally loving being that you can be, that you are, in order to be a compassionate being on this planet, we first must have a deep understanding of what it means to set healthy boundaries. And I told you 2 weeks ago that I was going to be speaking about this, and so today I'm very excited to talk to you about this. My name is Paola Castro, and today in We Are the Miracle series videos of Facebook Live, we are talking about healthy boundaries because it just keeps coming up. It comes up in my life, it comes up in the life of my clients, it comes up in the life of my friends. Just this morning, I had 2 conversations back to back, and they all summed down to it came to the conclusion that what we need is healthy boundaries. Now, you would think we know how to do that. You would think that it's just common sense. But as I have said before, I love to say this phrase, common sense is the least common of the senses. Usually we think we know things, but because we think we know them, we stop talking about them and we stop doing them, and so we forget it. So today I would love to talk to you about boundary setting and what does it mean to have healthy boundaries. Now, I've learned this through the teachings of Reverend Michael and also through the teachings of Brené Brown. If you don't know who Brené Brown or Michael Bernard Beckwith are, Google them right now. They're amazing teachers. In the studies of Brené Brown, she talks about that there's no such a thing as unconditional love if we don't first know what our boundaries are. In her studies, she has discovered that the people that have more capacity to be loving and compassionate with others are those people that are very, very clear on what their boundaries are and they respect them. So I hope you guys are following with me with this one because it's so huge. Many of us, we want peace. We want beautiful, deep relationships. And we deserve it. We're worthy of beautiful, deep relationships. And time again, we go into that space of disappointment, of I can't believe I'm sacrificing so much and they're not even being grateful. We come into that space where we get resentful, we get hateful, and then we're pointing the finger, and then it just gets very messy. I hope you guys are with me in this moment. Let's take a deep breath in and let go. I'm going to open your comments on my phone because I'm looking that in this interface of Facebook, I'm not seeing you commenting because the comment seems to be shut down. So here's what I'm going to do. And if you are live right now, say a quick hi. I want to see your name. I'm opening you up here on my phone. Let's see. All right, while it's charging. So how do I set healthy boundaries? Well, first, we're going to navigate what does it mean to have a healthy sense of self. Now, it all begins with boundaries with self. You need to know what's okay and what's not okay for you. Now, in order to know what is okay and what's not okay for me, I need to have a healthy sense of self. It sounds like we're talking about the ego. Now, I know this word could trigger people in thinking, I need to get rid of my ego. I hate my ego. I hear all these spiritual teachers talking about getting rid of the ego. I don't want to go there and into the debate of whether the ego should stay or leave. I'm just going to call it today a sense of self, a sense of identity. As long as you are in human condition, you will have a sense of self. You know your name, you know how old you are, you know what you like, what you don't like. It's how you filter through the senses. All right. And it has memory about the past and it has desires about the future. And we could have a healthy sense of self or an unhealthy sense of self. All right. And I'm going to talk to you about how to develop a healthy sense of self. Okay, I can see it here. Let's see. Oh, I'm hearing myself. All right. So, hi, Martin. Hi, Craig. Hi, Fee. Hi, Veronica. So good to see you here. All right. All right, guys. So, I'm going to have you here on my phone. And if you can just say a quick hi, I would love to give a shout out to you. All right. So, a healthy sense of self. What does that mean? Is that you have self-respect, self-worth, and self-love. So a healthy sense of ego or self starts with a sense of self-respect. And what does that mean, self-respect? Very common sense, but I'm going to repeat it right now for you to remember. For me to remember too. It's crazy. Even if I'm the one teaching, when I say these words, sometimes something in me clicks like, oh yeah, I need that too. So this is for all of us, for us to remember. A healthy sense of self has a deep realization of what self-respect is. And self-respect starts with knowing what is okay and what's not okay for you. What are your values? What do you value the most? And usually we know what we value the most through knowing our needs. What are your needs? I know one of my needs is freedom. So I value freedom. Anybody in my life that I would feel that they're taking away that freedom, which by the way, nobody can take anything away from you unless you allow it. But in case, let's say that and I know I've had this in the past where I feel that it might not be the person, but the situation is deeming my freedom, is deeming that expansiousness. In that moment I go, oh, that's not okay. But why do I know that that's not okay? Because there is a part of me that I have cultivated for many years, and I'm going to continue to cultivate until the day I die, that is called self-love. Self-love means I'm going to make sure that I'm meeting my needs. Why? Because if I don't do it, nobody's going to do it. And if I don't do it, I'm going to start asking my husband, I'm going to start asking my parents, I'm going to start asking my friends to meet those essential needs. And sometimes there's beautiful people in our lives that are so happy to celebrate life with us, to meet our needs. But most of the time, they'll do it with more celebration and joy if we have done that for ourselves first. Another thing about self-love is that and I've talked about this before in previous We Are the Miracle videos, that we need to learn how to parent ourselves. Because back when you were a child, you know, mom or dad or your caregiver was behind you saying, you got to brush your teeth, you got to go to bed early, you got to do this, you got to study, you got to do your homework. Now we grow, we turn 18, 20, and we leave home. And then all of a sudden, there's no parent, there's no caregiver telling us anything anymore. And that's the moment where we become our own parents. Remember when you were in school and your parent was like, I'm not sure about your friend. They're being rude to you. And you as a child, you're like, oh, really? And you're confused. You need some guidance. But now you grow and you become an adult, which, by the way, having birthdays doesn't mean that we grow up. Not all adults are grown-ups. There's a lot of juvenile adults in this society. A lot of people that have said no to their personal development, no to the spiritual development, which means knowing thyself. And you see people 40, 50, 60 years old behaving like a little child. Why? Because there's a little child inside of you, inside of me, that is crying out loud for love. Now we're still waiting for our parents to come and tell us something, or the caregivers. And I know some of you might have not been born in a family with parents where the primary caregivers, but let's say there was an aunt, there was someone there. They're guiding you. As you grow, it has to be you. So that sense of self-love is that you know yourself and you know what's important to you. What's important? What are those needs that you need? So for me, that I'm going to tell you my number one value: freedom. I want to feel like I have the freedom to express myself. And how do I know this? Because there's been many times in my life where I have felt that it's not okay to be myself. It's not okay to express. That I have to walk on shells because someone is gonna get mad. And I've experienced that, and thank God I've experienced that, because it gave me so much clarity of what I know now at 35 years old, to know now what's okay and what's not okay. So I know that I give myself love through that. I also know I'm worthy. I'm worthy of freedom and worthiness. I've done so many videos about this. I can't remember about if I've done it here at the Rythmia page, but you're worthy because you exist. So I don't want you to think that worthiness is something you have to earn. It's when you tap into that sense of worthiness where you say, okay, this is not okay, and I'm worthy to have what I want, and I'm worthy to experience what I want. How am I going to do it? Through that deep sense of self-love, and get it, vocalize it. I hope you guys are with me. I'm going to look at the chat just to say hello to you. Let's see. Dorota, hi Dorota. Hi Rochelle. Hi Kumar. Hi Rebecca. Okay. Hi Craig. Hi Amanda. In a moment, I'm going to read your questions. I just wanted to say a quick hi to you and thank you for watching. So let's take a deep breath in. Let go. So I'm just going to invite you right now, even though this might sound a bit too basic, but again, some of these things sometimes we don't ever do. And I want you to, at some point, you don't have to do it right now, take a piece of paper and a pen, divide it in half, and I want you to write those things that are okay and that are not okay. And usually I start with the not okays, and then I think, what of this behavior I could negotiate, I could tolerate. In life, and someone very wise told me one day, she was going through something really hard, and she says, you know, Paola, I have found out, and this was an older woman, she's so wise, oh my God, I admire her so much, and she said, this just happened to me because I tolerated it. I got this because the limits were pushed so much that I allowed this to happen. So you get in life what you tolerate, which is another way of seeing it. So what are the things that you could tolerate? There's some things that you say, you know, that's uncomfortable, but it's okay. For example, I know if there's someone in my life, or in the life of my clients, or in the life of my family, when they're going through a hard situation, I don't mind people coming to me and dumping the information on me. Like, it's part of my purpose, I believe, to be a listener. I love listening to people's stories. So it's okay for me to be in a space with someone is highly negative for a moment. I know that I might not be okay for that over and over and over again, but I know how to set those boundaries that if someone comes in my life with that, that's okay. For some other people, they have very low tolerance for that. They don't know how to deal with that, usually because they don't know how to deal with their own negativity. But judgment aside, usually that's okay for me. What's not okay for me? Manipulation. That's in my list. What's not okay for me? Aggressiveness, especially physical aggressiveness, emotional aggressiveness, rudeness. That's not okay for me. Bad words. When some people are arguing and they just throw names at each other, not okay for me. The moment I'm in a space where that is happening, I exit the room. Why? Because I know that's not okay with me. Now, you might be different and you might be so okay with that. And some people, I know there's been people in my life, it's like, it's okay. We're just passionate. It doesn't mean anything. That's all right. If that's you, I'm not saying that has to be something on your list. I'm just giving you ideas on things that could be okay and could be not okay with you. Another thing that I wrote here, drug abuse. I've had this situation in the family, with friends, and it's not that you abandon them, but when there is addiction, and this is another topic for another day, it's so intense, it's so deep, it's so sad at times, that in order for you to have compassion for someone that is in drug abuse, you need to have a lot of boundaries. Meaning you can give them your love, but then you have to set the boundary again so that you can replenish and give your love again. Usually what happens if you have someone in your life that is abusing drugs, you give, you give, you give, you give, you sacrifice, you overextend, and then you're exhausted. Not only them go down to the rabbit hole, but you go with them. You both go to hell together. So, that's one for me. And in a moment, I'm going to tell you a distinction, because it's not that you are just going to shut the door, but you can do something very important I'm about to tell you in a moment. Dishonesty. Dishonesty is a big one. And I've had to set that boundary with myself. And let me explain this. Dishonesty could go so much under the radar, not only for the other people, but for yourself, for me as well. Dishonesty, sometimes we are dishonest in the name of making, in the name of I just want everybody to be okay. So dishonesty, and also all these boundaries is with self, is the same. So the moment I notice myself, there's some sense of dishonesty. I'm saying something so that I'm going to be liked, but it's not exactly what I want. I have to be very aware of that. And also dishonesty with others. When I notice that people are lying, it's not okay with me. So you get the point. So what I want you to do, if this is resonating with you, only if it's resonating, you're going to write down a list. You're going to divide it in the middle, and then that's what you're going to say, this is not okay with me, and this what could be okay. So for example, in my list of okays, it's okay for me to have hard conversations. It's okay for me to be in the presence of someone having a deep, hard time. It's okay for me, someone that is direct and assertive, even though at times it might hurt. It's okay for me to have to be with people that have an open mind. They might not think the same as I think. They might be giving me their ideas. I might not be in agreement with that, but it's okay. I'm not radical in my thinking, so it's okay for me to be, in the midst of someone talking about whatever it is that they believe. Some other people, it's not okay for them. They feel really moved by having someone opposing their idea. So now this is very personal. I'm not saying what's right, what's wrong. You have to know. But how do you know? By doing that work of knowing thyself. Now, another thing I told my client this morning, that I was talking to her, and I said, pay attention to anger. Pay attention to anger. When you get angry, is an indication that a boundary has been violated. And it might not be by others, it might be by yourself. You knew that that wasn't right, but you went ahead and did it anyway. So anger, it's a good indication of when we're crossing a boundary. Now, you guys, this conversation is so rich, and I wish I had more time to talk about this, but when we know our boundaries, when we engage in self-respect, self-love, and self-worth, then you feel the sense of expansion, because now you're no longer surviving, or your energy is no longer leaving you. It's almost like you plug the holes, and then you feel that overflow of energy. And then you start being a witness of the miracles that are happening all the time in your life. You guys, there are miracles happening all the time as a natural impulse of this universe. You are the miracle. We are the miracle. Why don't we see the miracle happening? Why do we think life keeps being the same over and over and over again? Because sometimes we get so stuck in having relationship drama, so stuck feeling disappointed, so stuck feeling like they owe you, like you sacrificed too much. That takes so much energy from you. But when you plug those holes, when you set the boundaries, when I'm going to tell you a little bit in a moment how to set the boundaries in terms of what to do. And this is just my ideas on how to. You may have different ideas. When you do this, then you can see better. Then your energy goes into the higher chakras, goes into your heart, goes into your throat, so you can speak the truth. You can see the truth. When we're too much in relationship toxicity, we stay in the more physical chakras, if you will, in the energy centers. We stay too much in power struggles here in our solar plexus, and it just gets heavy. It's murky, stuck. Ugh. But then once you start resolving that little by little, step by step, and for the rest of your life, because you guys, I'm talking to you right now, but I am in the process of implementing this. This is something that you experience over and over and over again, and you start transcending. You start seeing. I know in my life, I remember when I was younger, there were some friendships that were so abusive, and I tolerated it. Now that was what, 10, 15 years ago. Now at this age, I'm like, oh wow, I have transcended that. I will not tolerate that anymore. Now, you may say, well, Paola, if you talk about spirituality, and if you talk about that we're all one, and the world, we're all an expression of the one energy, what would you say not tolerate? Why would you say that's not okay? Now, let me explain. When you go into the dimensions outside of this third dimension, in the fifth dimension, unconditional love, none of this video, nothing I have said is relevant. Because once you're in different dimensions, you are one with the one. There's no difference between your brother and sister and yourself. Now, let me tell you something. You have chosen to come to this third dimension for a period of time. You and I, we're in human condition. We have access to higher dimensions. We have access to be grounded on earth. We have access to both energies. And we're here. Now, I've seen this in the spiritual community a lot where they say, well, but we're all one. And I say, yes, we are. And then I asked about their relationship, and she or he might say, well, she is abusive, he is abusive. He calls me names, she calls me names. He has bit me at times. We've had physical confrontations. And I go, okay, we are all one. And you can forgive them. Please forgive them. But do it from afar. You don't have to be in that toxicity to be loving, to be giving, to wish them well, to send them blessings. But get out of there. Because when you confuse that with oneness, now it's an unhealthy way of seeing the truth. Or that truth, that perspective. I don't have the truth, but that perspective. So I hope this is landing with you guys. So let's see, guys. Okay, I'm going to go back a little bit, and in a moment I'm going to tell you the last point, and then I'm going to end this Facebook Live. Okay, the last point meaning, what do I do when I'm in front of that person that it's going beyond my boundaries? What do I do when I know I'm going to go to the office and there is that coworker that, or maybe you don't go to the office, maybe you do, but you know, we're on that Zoom meeting and that person just throw that nasty comment, like, what do we do? Okay, so I'm going to tell you in a moment. Hi, Veronica. Love you, amiga. You're so great with your summaries. Kumar, healthy sense of self sounds better. Beautiful. I love you. Love that, Kumar. Yeah. Self-worth, self-respect. So, yeah, the word ego, controversial. Let's leave it at a healthy sense of self. Yes. Okay. Ego will always be with us. Mm-hmm. If you choose to use that word, yes, the sense of self is part of the third dimension. You are right, Craig. When When it's a stay ego, there's a background. Beautiful. Okay. Lovely comment, correct. Thank you. Amanda, how do I break the pattern of living in situations where I'm walking on eggshells? Ooh, this is a good one, Amanda. So, first of all, you need to understand what's okay and what's not okay with you. So, obviously, being around people or around a person that is like walking on eggshells, it's super difficult. I have gone through that situation. I know the amount of stress and anxiety that that brings. If you want to talk to that person, there is a way to communicate it. I would suggest for you to look into nonviolent communication. That's a practice. But you have to go to your heart and ask your heart, do I want to continue to be in this relationship? Is this relationship over? Was this relationship perhaps just for a season of my life and not for a lifetime? If the answer is no, perhaps this is the time to walk away. Now, I know sometimes people tell me, Paola, this is my daughter that is a teenager, or this is my husband. We're married, we live in the same house, and no, I'm not ready to get a divorce. So it's good to bring that to the conversation, to bring it to voice it. Now, there are ways to speak. I can give you a class on nonviolent communication. I'm not going to because we don't have time. But here's what I was about to share with you guys. We can speak from the heart. But don't speak from the heart, or don't try to speak from the heart if you're not clear on what are your needs. What are the needs are not being met, and what are your boundaries? But let's say you're clear now and you want to communicate it and you learn about nonviolent communication. Now we're ready to tap into the heart, to go right here and use our discernment. You guys, I think I wrote it wrong. All those grammar snobs out there. Sometimes I've been in class and they're like, you wrote it wrong. I'm sorry. Discernment. The power of discernment. Discernment is a quality of your heart. And I want you to know this part because it's not black and white. I know that there are people that have a sibling right now going through addiction. And they say, I have the calling, the soulful calling to hold space for this being. So here's where there is no black and white. But you use your discernment. Let's say that in your case, you have someone at home that has borderline disorder. They're very volatile. But it's your child and you love your child. Especially with mental illness, boundaries are so good for them. Especially if someone around you has a mental illness. If you have a healthy sense of boundaries, you will help them navigate their volatile emotions. So you use your discernment. Why do I want to use my discernment? Because you want to know when it's time to do some self-respect and when it's time to give the other. When is some time to do some self-love first before you love the other? A good question, a good discerning question is, what I'm about to do for this being, is this an act of self-care first? If the answer is yes, go ahead and help that person. If the answer is if the answer is no, make sure you meet your own needs first. So we can go in different ways. You can say, I'm going to have a conversation with this person. I'm ready to speak my truth because it's worth it. And I know it could go well. It could be that, no, I'm ready to walk out. I'm going to get ready. I'm going to get my strength. I'm going to do my work. And I'm going to get ready to exit this season of our lives. Or it could be both. It could be that I'm gonna support this being because I love it. But there are going to be times where it's okay not to answer all the phone calls. Where it's okay to say, no, I can't in this moment. Where it's okay to say, okay, I'm going to leave this conversation. A while ago, I had a situation with someone with borderline disorder, and I had great compassion for this being. And we were having a conversation, and she got a little insulting. And in that moment, I said, I'm going to step out. And with all the love, because I knew she was suffering so much pain, that I had to walk out. I just walked away. So there are different ways that you can go, but it all starts with self-respect, self-worth, and self-love. All right. I hope that answers your question, but that's a great question, Amanda. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Hamal. Yes. So, Amanda, it's important. Yeah, you first. Because when you make others happy at your expense, nobody's happy at the end because the energy is transmitted, even though you're giving so much. That givingness comes from a space of lack, of I am sacrificing. No more love through sacrifice. That's no paradigm. Let's give love from a space of overflow, but that means we need to be full first. We need to do the work first. And at the beginning, we might feel uncomfortable. We might piss some people off. And that's okay. And that's okay. But the people that are meant to be in your life, they'll come back. I promise you that. It's happened to me so many times. All right. Beautiful, you guys. So, so let's see. Tina, hi. Raquel, you're welcome. When will you restart? I'm not sure. I wish I knew. I don't know when Rythmia is going to open again. I'm so glad you need to hear this today, Dorota, Rosie. I try to remind myself that I'm enough, that when that other relationship becomes toxic, it's not my journey, it's their journey. All I can do is look at things as a lessons that I can learn and grow. It's time to acknowledge that they have served their purpose, wish them well, and move on. Good, Rosie. Very good. Exactly that. I'm going to close with this one. There is a kindergarten song that goes, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. A guy named, goes by the name Prince EA. He's a big influencer on social media. Check him out. Prince EA. He has a video about it. And I just love it. And he says that it's a very important song to understand. And then the beginning of the video, he says, row, row, row your boat. You cannot row anybody else's boat. Because when you fall into the illusion that you can row someone else's boat, you don't row your boat because you're rowing with one row. And what happens when you do that? You go in circles. You feel stuck. You're not rowing the other person's boat because you can't, because that's an impossibility. And it's in a way a form of disrespect. We all can row our own boats. And so that's another way of setting a boundary. Tell yourself every day, if this resonates, let them row their boat. Oh, I've used this phrase so many times in my own relationships. Let them row their boat. It's okay. They can, and I can. And that is the deepest form of reverence you can have for another human being. Reverence for their journey. They're exactly where they need to be, just like you. There's no need to save anybody, to fix anybody, because that's an illusion. So I hope you guys enjoy this Facebook Live. I loved it. I will see you in 2 weeks. Goodbye.